Welcome back to GBN Tonight with me, Martin Dawdley. Now, a hot cross bun shortage and a bread shortage could be upon us as we run up to Easter, owing to the first ever national farmers' strike. Now, British farmers are refusing to supply milling wheat in protest against Rachel Reeves's inheritance tax raid and also the land grab. Now, the move, aimed at raising concerns over food security and the UK's reliance on imports, is expected to disrupt the availability of flour and bakery products ahead of Easter. Now, here's the question. Could we be heading for our own version, as you can see on your screens, of the bread shortages seen in the good old USSR? Now, if this crisis isn't averted, it might just become a reality. Well, joining me now to discuss this is a farmer, Olly Harrison, who is one of the guys heading up this protest movement. Of course, I'm still with my panel. Sir Ranil Jayawardena, the former Conservative MP, and the Minister Joe Phillips, journalist and the former press secretary to Paddy Ashdown. Olly, I'm going to start with you. You've been in London today. You've been over in Parliament, once again trying to make your case to parliamentarians, but that hasn't worked so far. There have been numerous Queensberry rules protests. Jeremy Clarkson was here. We've had hundreds of tractors, thousands of protesters. That hasn't worked. And now you're upping the ante. You're going for bread shortages. Tell us why you got to this point.
So basically, the rural MPs get it. They understand what farming is. They've got rural constituents. You know, they totally understand it. The urban MPs don't understand it. They need farmers 3 times a day. So we've now taken this move to remind them. We've just, one product, it's essentially bread, hot cross buns, cakes, anything that's made of flour, really. We're just like, well, OK, then if you don't know who we are, we'll stop sending some wheat out for a few weeks and let's see how you get on. So the wheat won't make it through to the mills. The mills can't supply the bakeries. The bread will dry up on the shelves. That's the plan. And I believe you're also advising farmers and their families and the public to go out and buy bread, to try and do a locust-like removal of bread from shelves. So obviously it's going to go short. So some farmers that don't grow milling wheat or they don't want to travel to London for a protest or whatever, they're going getting bread and they're giving it out to elderly in their neighbourhoods. So that's what's going on there, really, because they want to be involved, but they can't be because they produce lambs or they produce beef, you know what I mean? So it's to let them feel involved, really. That's what they're doing. And you want to do something tangible, something that people can see. We saw shortages, of course, during COVID lockdowns. For some reason, there was no bog roll. Supply chains are all just in time, and wheat can store indefinitely, but bread can't. So we can hold that back, but you can't really hold bread back. You can't stockpile bread because it's going to happen. And they just need to be reminded where their daily bread comes from, and that is what it's all about. And hopefully we only have to do it once or we only have to do it for a few weeks, who knows. But them urban MPs just need reminding, hold on a second, it's your constituents that have lost the choice. No one's going to starve, but people are going to lose the choice. With barbecue season's coming, if there's no bread rolls, they can't, barbecue very well. They need to realise, and if you're watching anyone that likes a burger or whatever, get in touch with your MP and say, I don't like the fact that I've not got empty shelves. It's Britain. It's Britain in 2025. We shouldn't be queuing for bread or have it rationed. It's bonkers.
Do you think if there were shortages of things like bread and hot cross buns, the British public has been very supportive until this point? Do you think they will still back you?
Well, yeah, we're kind of a bit like train drivers. People get angry about train drivers, but they don't actually know them, do they? They're not like personal. It's just a train driver. You don't see them, and they get away with striking, and they get what they want. We just want to remind them that the food chain is fragile. Farmers are needed. UK production is needed. We don't want to be importing wheat that's grown to a lesser standards than us, used with chemicals that were banned here 20 years ago.
OK, well, stick with us. I'll bring in my panel now, and know that you want to react to what they say. Sir Ranil and Joe. Let's start with you, Joe. Your family, of course, come from a farming background. Do you support what Ollie Harrison and his mob are doing?
Well, I completely support the farmers, and I am absolutely passionate about the need for people in this country to understand that food security is arguably as important as defence security, but we have an ignorance that has been perpetrated through government of all colours about where food comes from, how it gets to the table. That, as Ollie just said, some farmers can't go on strike. If you've got sheep lambing at the moment or you've got cows calving, you can't just abandon them. We have had strikes before temporarily. We've had dairy farmers, tipping milk down the drains and things like that. And nobody wants to see food wasted. I do question Easter hot cross buns because they seem to start selling them on Boxing Day, as far as I can tell, although goodness knows what they're made of. But I just wonder, does it actually affect people if people are so ignorant that they don't know where the food comes? Wouldn't it be better in a way to go out and almost do a sort of a virtual farmers market that, this is what you got? Because we're also...
You've tried that.
We've done that for the last 6 months. With Pancake Day was all about this is what, what goes into making a pancake. The NFU have done the Days of Action where they've took everything into towns. We basically didn't go full force. We tried the education piece. We tried to educate the ministers. We tried to get them to understand. But there's the problem we've got at the moment. We've got Treasury running the country. And they're just number crunchers. Can
I just ask you a quick question, because I know Ranald wants to come in. You say that rural MPs get it. Does that include the newly elected Labour rural MPs?
But about 40 of them, right?
They're so whipped and they won't stand
interesting.
up. But they're thinking, well, we're safe for 4 years. We're getting paid for 4 years.
So, Ranald, let's bring you in now. I mean, we josh about Soviet-style queues, but a lot of people in the farming community, Olly Harrison being one of them, are saying they do feel that some of the regime now is communist, particularly the land grabs, the buying of farmers' land for rock-bottom prices without them having a say. They're the only industry in Britain that can't even decide their own prices. They get told their prices. They've had enough. They've tried to be polite, and now strikes seems to be the direction of travel. Do you think that's the right thing to do? And do you think that Labour will listen?
Well, personally, I'm never in favour of striking, but I understand what we've heard tonight in terms of the rationale. In terms of the land grab, though, I mean, yes, this is deeply concerning, alongside the family farm tax, alongside wider issues that are affecting many businesses across this country. A lot of people don't understand the low yield, ultimately, on farming, which is only possible thanks to family farms being able to be handed down through the generations. And although the overall value of a farm might be high, the yield is very low, and so it's not possible for farmers to weather this without the government U-turning. I think there is one concern that I do have, and I'd be interested actually in Ollie's view on this, which is that the NFU in the past had spent a lot of time criticising the Conservatives in government on certain things. And actually, I fear that has almost allowed Labour to slip these sorts of policies in through the back door, including the suggestion in the past, we weren't going to touch, they said, inheritance tax. And of course, that's exactly what they did at the first opportunity. I mean, what's your view on that? What's your view on what the NFU should be doing?
I mean, the NFU have tried for years to educate MPs, invite them to farms. I've hosted numerous MPs on my farm. But I think Labour was very much, it's jam tomorrow, When we get in, everything's going to be better. But they don't understand it. They've spent more time throwing stones than actually listening. We've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. They need us to be listening.
And they've got a huge majority now as well.
Yeah, and that's it. They're just riding roughshod.
Yeah. Ollie Harrison, what's the resolve? I mean, I've got to say, I've been asking GBNews viewers for their take on this today. I would say 99% of our viewers support what the farmers are doing. They're prepared to go without bread for a while. They're prepared to get some flour in when they can get it. How is the mood amongst farmers? If this doesn't work, are you going to go further?
I mean, I'm worn out of it now. I mean, if we don't get any sort of result in the next 6 months, I question whether it's worth farming. We'll get this harvest out of the way and then decide whether we drill anything. And we've obviously the SFI been taken off us now. That was the safety net for bad weather. That was encourage people to do stuff for the environment. And they've just pulled the rug with 20 minutes notice. It's unbelievable what they're doing to the industry that feeds people every day.
Okay, we need to have a severe think, do we not, about food security, what it means, and a reliance on importation.
Nobody's taken it seriously for decades.
But can you believe that we might have rationing in about a week's time?
Oh yeah,
it's 2025.
But look at the food that we waste, Ollie. Look at the food that people buy, the rubbish.
It's too cheap.
Yeah.
I wonder if people watching this out there would be supportive of food shortages in the name of supporting British farmers. Please let us know. Ollie Harrison, always a pleasure to have your company. Thank you very much. And of course, Serrano and Joe Phillips. Pleasure as always. Let's move on. Let us know at home, would you support bread shortages, food shortages to support British farmers?